Lección 23. ¿Hay algo en el agua? Part 2. Here is a praying mantis. Es verde. No es muy grande. It's from my brother's yard in Pennsylvania. He's the other Max. And this es una ranita from my backyard in Indiana. Really, it's probably not a frog. It's probably a toad. Es verde y pequeño. It's sitting on a leaf of a milkweed plant. This es una oruga. Oruga. And it just happens to be eating the leaves of a milkweed plant. La oruga tiene mucha hambre. It has to eat a lot to become a healthy butterfly and to fly all the way down to Mexico. Ranita no tiene hambre, no tiene calor, no tiene frío, no tiene sed. He just sits there on the milkweed leaf looking mean and very lazy. He sits there for hours in my yard. Once in a while, if I'm lucky, I'll see Ranita leaping through the grass. Then he sits on the milkweed plant again, looking mean and very lazy, and hoping nobody eats the leaf he's sitting on. Oruga keeps eating. Tengo hambre. Tengo mucha hambre. Oruga always speaks Spanish because that's all I speak to Oruga. I've tried teaching Spanish to Ranita, but as you can see, Ranita is usually busy. Busy doing nothing, but busy. If Oruga gets to the spot where Ranita is sitting, Oruga will probably say excuse me in the nicest way. Permiso, con permiso. And then it may say to Ranita, ¿Cómo te llamas? And Ranita will say, Me llamo Ranita, ¿y tú? And Oruga will say, Me llamo Oruga. But I'm going to change my name in a few months. You are? Sí, I'm going to change it to Mariposa. ¿Por qué? Because I won't be an Oruga anymore. I'll be a Mariposa, silly. 3 words that sound a lot alike. I, and I. ¡Ay! Hay algo en el agua. Oh, there's something in the water. So I won't drink it. We also saw that the Spanish word ay is spelled the same as the English word hey. And the English word hey sounds just like hey. H-E-Y, but of course we never confuse them when we hear them. If someone says, hey, we don't say, which hey do you mean? Because we know. And so you get really good at Spanish words too. Now look at these 4 words. They sound a lot alike. I, and I. Hay algo en el agua. Gallina began to think, yo tengo sed. Un solo agüititititita. Yo no soy grande. No soy muy grande. Maybe if I just take un agüitititita, everything will be fine. That's all I'll take, she said. And she walked over to el charco, and she took una agüita. Me gusta el agua. Well, she said, I'll take just un agüititititita. Me gusta. And she took another. Y otro. Y otro. Y otro. And then she walked up to the casa, La casa grande y blanca y muy bonita. And she sat right on top of el techo. She was half as big as la casa. It was incredible. And when Borreguita looked around and said, ¿Dónde está gallina? No one knew what to say. And there was Ganso, over at the charco, taking una agüita. Oh, yo tengo mucha sed, dijo Ganso. It won't hurt for me to take una agüitititita. Well, maybe una agüita más, he said. Me gusta el agua. And so Ganso took a few more agüitas and then went up to the casa, la casa grande y blanca y muy bonita. Caballito dijo, by the way, ¿dónde está Ganso? Borreguita looked around. Ay, Caballito, mira Ganso. And Caballito looked and saw that Ganso was now half as tall as the casa. Hay algo en el agua, dijo Borreguita. Whatever you do, don't drink it. Everyone else promised they wouldn't, but they did. Caballito, you must promise me, never, ever, under any circumstances, will you drink from that charco. While Borreguita went on talking, Caballito had a thought in his cabeza. Yo tengo mucha sed, he said to himself. And off he went to the charco to take una agüititita. He said, it surely won't hurt a big caballito like me to take un agüititita. And so he took una agüita. Y otro. Y otro. And then he went up and stood next to the casa. Something just as strange as ever had happened to him. Now Caballito estaba muy alto, más alto que la casa. And that's saying something because la casa es muy grande y muy alta. Vaca walked up and said to Borreguita, Buenos días, mi amiga Borreguita, ¿cómo estás? Borreguita le dijo, Estoy muy bien, Vaca, pero I've got to be honest with you. I'm worried about that charco. People are drinking out of it, and strange things are happening to them. Vaca le dijo, ¿Dónde está Caballito? No sé, dijo Borreguita. Caballito was here. Vaca, mira! And Vaca looked up and saw that Caballito was almost touching the sky. Pero Caballito está muy grande, muy alto. Shortly after that, Borreguita was so overcome by thirst, and she kept saying, Tengo mucha sed, tengo mucha sed. And she walked right up to that charco and took una agüita. Oh, well, she said, solo una agüititititita won't hurt una borreguita like me. And so she took una agüita. Y otro. Y otro. And then she went up and stood by la casa grande y blanca y muy bonita. Borreguita was now much taller than the door. And Vaca, having no one to talk to, looked around, saw the charco, and said to herself, Oh, tengo mucha sed. And she walked up to the charco and took una agüita. Una agüita muy grande. And then another agüita muy grande. And then she walked up to the casa, and you can see the very strange thing that happened to Vaca. Vaca was now muy grande as la casa blanca, grande y bonita. Oh, it was strange, all right. And I'll leave it to you to figure out exactly what was in that agua. Hay algo en el agua. You older students may have a pretty good understanding of what's going on, but try to put it into words. It's really, really hard to do. Hasta luego, and please be careful of the agua you drink.